Hello, this is Sunil Sunder Raj with the Oradell Sports Round-Up. Today, I am happy to be speaking with Garrett deMarrais, a 2017 River Dell High School graduate and second baseman on the varsity baseball team, formerly a graduate assistant baseball coach at Stockton University, and currently a graduate assistant baseball coach at Misericordia University in Pennsylvania, and also a history teacher at Absegami High School in Galloway, New Jersey. Garrett, once again, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be able to speak, with someone from Oradell, and definitely, I said a graduate of River Dell High School. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the pleasure's all mine, like we talked about. I mean, it's awesome looking back and seeing all the coverage you provide to River Dell Sports. So be able to sit down and talk to you a little bit, even though it's all virtual and over the computer. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you. Hey, when you look back here on your time at River Dell High School, I said both on the varsity baseball team and the football team. I said a 3-year member on the varsity baseball team, as you indicating in your notes, 320 win seasons. I mean, enjoyed immense success on the field. Garrett, just wanted to ask you, I know it's been now some time since you did graduate, but just what comes to your mind first and foremost?
When I look back at my high school career, I mean, the wins are awesome, and you can count all the accolades and all that stuff. But when I look back at my high school experience, I just think of the guys that I shared the field with, both football and baseball. I mean, there were so many guys when I was a young baseball player on varsity where I'm in uncharted territory. Guys like Chris Webber, Jake Fletcher, Julian Smith, guys that just show you the ropes, and the same on the football field too. I played for 1 year senior year, and the guys who have already been a part of it kind of took me under their wing and showed me how to do things. Dave Estevez, Alec Lanza, Nick Sirico, the names that a lot of people are familiar with in that football program. Yeah. It's, and of course, Coach Flanagan for the baseball team and Coach Ninfus for the football team. It's, I was really lucky. When I look back, that's really the first thing I think of is I was really lucky to be surrounded by so many good people and with so much knowledge of the game and, so much knowledge of how to grow up and be a man off the field as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hey, talk about, playing that second base, position, Garrett, and also, for Coach Flanagan, what he meant to you in terms of your development there on the baseball team.
Yeah, so Coach Flanagan and my family go way back. My dad was his varsity baseball coach at New Milford High School back when he was playing high school baseball. Okay. So it came full circle when I was playing for him. When he was my varsity baseball coach. But Coach Flanagan, and you can never forget his assistant coach, his volunteer assistant for so long, Coach Dick Collins. They're really just great men with great baseball minds. And even more than just baseball philosophically and the X's and the O's, it's how they connect with young men and how they're able to reach young men to get the best out of them, both on the field and in the classroom and ultimately in the community as well. So Coach Flanagan and I still keep in close contact, shooting texts back and forth, and as do myself and a bunch of Riverdale baseball alumni. We all keep a pretty close circle because of the memories we share.
That's wonderful. Hey, just talk about playing home games at Riverdale High School as well as on the road. With both with baseball and football, Garrett.
Yeah, home games are something else, especially when you're talking about the football team. Yeah. I look back at some of the pictures that were snapped by. I wish I knew who took them, but you see the student section in the background. And for me, it's a unique situation because I only played my senior year. So my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, I was in the stands and I was a part of it, looking at the games from that perspective. And then all of a sudden it's senior year and I'm on the field and I look at the stands and, it's a completely different perspective. You certainly feel like you're the center of attention. The whole universe kind of stops and revolves around you for a second while you're wearing the helmet and shoulder pads on the Riverdale football field. So it's an experience you can't really describe until you're actually wearing the cleats and you buckle up your chin strap and you're actually standing on that field, looking at what looks like the whole community. It's truly a special experience.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. In terms of the culture, the tradition, that brotherhood, long-lasting life, relationships, with teammates that goes way beyond, said whether it's the baseball diamond and the gridiron, Garrett.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have so many fun baseball memories too. Specifically sophomore year, I really wasn't even playing that much on the varsity baseball team, but we played Mount Olive in the state sectional final, and we looked down the right field line, at first pitch, and it's just what looks like the entire student body. And like we talked about, the school really takes pride in its athletics, and different programs support each other. And it's like I said, it's special to be a part of and to look back on.
I know 2016, I said you played defensive back and long snapper. It was tough, the way it ended. I know for you, I said suffering, that or sustaining that dislocated shoulder and torn labrum in the regular season. I don't know if it was the finale, and then underwent surgery that knocked you out of the playoffs. I mean, how tough was that? I mean, just knowing that the team went on, to MetLife Stadium, won the state championship. Just talk about that, Garrett.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. It was a tough decision with the torn labrum coming from a dislocated shoulder and what was a meaningless last game of the regular season. It sucked, but ultimately I had already committed to play baseball at Stockton University. That's where my firm commitment was, and I had to make the decision to get surgery rather than try and battle through it to play through the playoffs. It was a tough decision to make, but as soon as that surgery was over, we're playing Ramapo in the playoffs, and I'm standing on the sidelines in a sling, and I'm watching such a great kid in Jack Racine, who's now playing football for Tufts University in the NESCAC Conference Division III. And I'm thinking, damn, this Riverdale football team got a steal with me dislocating my shoulder, because this kid Jack Racine's a little bit better than me at defensive back. So, it was tough. I never want to be injured. I think it was worse for my mom. She's always seeing me injured. But Riverdale had a star as a sophomore defensive back, Jack Racine, through the state playoffs. So, it was difficult, but looking, back at all my friends and all the memories they have, and being there on the sideline and just being able to be a part of that group of guys is something that I'll cherish forever.
That's great. Hey, we talk about head coach DJ Nymphius. To see his track record and just the level of success year in and out. Just talk about playing for Coach Nymphius and just some of the intangibles that he brought, to the field every time out, whether it was a practice, whether it was, of course, during the course of a game, in the locker room too, Garrett.
Yeah. Coach Nymphius, I mean, there's so many people that can say so many things about him. Specifically, he's not just a high school football coach, coming from me personally, he's more than a high school football coach. He helps young men develop throughout some crucial years in their life, and uses football as that pathway to develop as young men. And I think the major thing that he taught me, and at the time, the wide receivers and defensive backs coach, Billy Lynn, what both of them were able to teach me, whether it be directly or indirectly, is how to win. There's certain coverages you can play, you can do certain X's and O's, you can do certain drills, but there's ways that you win. And it's in your preparation a lot of times, whether you're, hydrating 3 nights before, or whether you're going through a walkthrough and you're, fully taking mental reps when you're the last guy standing in line. There are things that transcend football and transcend sports in general, to where, people who win with Coach Nymphius, people who win under Billy Lynn and that position group, they find a way to win in life. And there's really no way to measure how much he can contribute to a young man's life. But if you look back at all these Riverdale football players, there's certainly a trend there of how they impact young men.
Yeah. Hey, those are some great years, those back-to-back state championships, and to see, led by quarterback Dave Estevez, and, the great thing is that, that's that tradition, of, quarterbacks coming through the system and be able to, again, lead their teams. And, as David Estevez, definitely, said lived up to that billing, Garrett.
Absolutely. I played with Dave Estevez on the baseball field, and I finally got to play with him on the football field my senior year. And it was, we certainly formed a connection, but the fact of the matter is everybody on the football team and the baseball team would tell you the same thing. Dave Estevez is a leader that I learned from. Even though he was a younger guy than me, I was able to learn from him because of his maturity and his leadership capabilities. So everybody he was around had a connection to him, and that's why he was able to lead so successfully. And with that football team, especially that 2016 team, I think we had 23 seniors. Nobody was bigger than the team. We just had a bunch of guys that loved each other, and we're truly just best friends while they were playing football. And once we took the pads off, showered in the locker room, we'd all hang out together, and we couldn't get enough of each other. We really were a group of best friends playing football and baseball.
No, I agree. How good was that, knowing that you're a a sport athlete, but I always ask athletes, how one sport affects the other in terms of, you talked about strength and conditioning and just keeping not only, I mean, it's nutrition, it's, it said mental, health as well, but just talk about that, it said staying active, pretty much, year round, Garrett.
Yeah. It's something that I certainly loved. I love playing multiple sports. I think so many kids out there should be encouraged to play multiple sports. Like you said, there's so many benefits to it. But the one thing that Coach Nymphius would always preach, and the one thing that, we look for it now while we recruit potential college athletes and student athletes for our baseball program is, are you playing multiple sports in high school? Because the guys who play multiple sports in high school are the ones who are competing 365 days a year. They're not the ones that are taking the time off to, rest, recover. And while that is important, to a certain extent, you also just love the guys that can get after it, whether they're playing chess or whether they're playing baseball. It doesn't matter. You want the competitors, and it teaches guys how to compete year round. And really, like I said, that skill that DJ Nymphius and guys like Billy Lynn can teach you is that competing year round teaches you to find a way to win. And that skill just transcends sports.
Yeah. I know it's never easy to take off, I said that uniform or jersey for the last time. I'm wondering not only how difficult that was, but just what it represented, to you for those 4 years at River Dell High School, Garrett.
It was special because growing up, I saw my brother wear the same uniforms that I was going to wear. As a young guy in the baseball program and in the stands on the football field, you see a lot of really admirable figures go through the program, and you watch them and you want to be like them. And I was fortunate enough where I was able to fill a role like those guys when my time came to play junior and senior year. And taking off the jersey isn't easy. Even if you're going to go play a college sport, there's nothing quite like representing your hometown, your community with your best friends by your side doing it. It's special. And the guys that I talk to nowadays that I'm recruiting, I really just tell them to enjoy it. Because when you are a senior, you take off that jersey for the last time. There's very few people in the country who are taking off their high school jersey with a smile on their face for the last time. And majority of the time, you'll be on the losing side of it. I just preach to everybody that I talk to is enjoy the moment, because it certainly won't last forever. And even if you're going to go play college sports, there's nothing like representing your community with your best friends by your side.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, let's talk about the high school, River Dell High School itself. Athletic director Dennis Nelson, who I consider, one of the best athletic directors, not only in Bergen County, North Jersey, but I think in the state of New Jersey. Rest of the administration. We talked about the community towns of Oradell and River Edge. What made the school so special? I mean, we were talking about before we came on there about I was emphasizing school pride, but just talk about how cool that was. Being able to walk those halls, knowing I said people recognize you. I said from playing baseball and football.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there were a few moments in my high school, endeavors when I'm just walking the hallway where I felt more proud than when I was wearing a Riverdale football or baseball sweatshirt. It was something that everybody in the community could identify with. And what was so special, especially about guys like Dennis Nelson, who I still keep in touch with, a great man, and he's certainly great at his job, is, even from that athletic director's position where you're not so much coaching athletes directly involved with student athletes, he's still from his position able to forge such good relationships with kids as people. And that's what really makes this Riverdale athletics program just special as a whole. With a guy like that at the helm, it's every kid feels very important. And that's how they should feel. They should feel valued, respected, and appreciated. And when you have Dennis Nelson as an athletic director, you certainly do every time. In regards to the community, it's awesome when you're playing a local game. And, I remember playing second base, and I can see down the left field line, they have that little curved street, and people are just out for a walk with their family or with their dogs, or, if someone's riding a bike, and you'll see a bunch of kids pull up to the fence and watch an inning or two of baseball that you're playing. And I remember being that kid walking with my family or riding my bike. And it's truly just special to be a part of that community when you have that kind of experience.
You're from Oradell. I always ask athletes about this because, I mean, two towns, merging into one, it's not easy. But I'm wondering, how that, you were able to balance that out, or how, that all came together where you guys are together as one, having that chemistry and that bond together as a team. I wanted to ask you about that, Garrett.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to play Riverdale junior football going through as young, I guess up until the age of 15 before we even made it into high school, where we're playing Riverdale junior football together. And we were lucky enough where we went through so many years of playing together, Oradell and River Edge kids, and even kids that decided not to play football in high school. They were still kids that we were friends with, we knew, and we certainly respected them for their efforts that they put on the football field. And just because that they decided football wasn't their passion in high school, it really helped the transition when you went to middle school in those first couple of years, when you knew somebody from when they were wearing pads with you. So it definitely helped with that transition.
That's great. Hey, I don't want to forget, it's really also about being a student athlete, and you earned plenty of accolades, said during your time at River Dell High School, school president, the keynote speaker at the graduation ceremony, very prestigious honors. Talk about how much that meant to you personally, Garrett.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'll still remember my graduation speech like it's the back of my hand. I could probably give you a SparkNotes version of it right now, but nobody wants to hear that. And I hope looking back that somebody in my graduating class can still remember a little bit of it. But to have the opportunity to speak in front of the entirety of my peers, at arguably, the biggest moment that any of us have experienced over that 4-year period of time. It was an honor, and it was a privilege. And I can still think back standing in front of the podium and rattling off that speech, the butterflies I had, of course, a little bit of nervousness, but also the pride that I had that I was able to deliver, a certain message to my peers on what would essentially be the last day as Riverdale student. Yeah,
no, I agree. Okay. And then you, of course, moved on to Stockton University. Had to ask you first, just what, I guess, made Stockton, the perfect fit for you, Garrett.
Yeah, so statistically speaking, Stockton University is the second most affordable university in New Jersey. So that's always nice.
Okay.
That was definitely an enticing part of it. Yeah. But my older sister had gone there to play volleyball, so I was familiar with it. I had the opportunity to go play baseball and potentially crack a starting lineup when I was young. I didn't have to feel like I was sitting around till junior or senior year to play. The campus is beautiful. It's only about 15, 20 minutes away from the beach. Huge beach guy. The facilities are very nice with the sports center indoor facility. And then also out at the West complex that we have is where our baseball field is located. I fell in love the first time I went there. And of course, the relationship I was able to build with the coaches during the recruiting process, it felt like a no-brainer for me.
It's great. Okay. Freshman year, went through some growing pains in terms of the record, but the fact that you had some memorable moments, walk-off hit versus King University, and then beat Rowing University, number one ranked team in the country. That had to feel good. I think Scott Baker, said the head coach that year. Just talk about that freshman year at Stockton University, Garrett.
Yeah, it was difficult, but it was certainly a learning experience. And I'll look back on my 4 years of college with more lessons and, more aspects of the game, more aspects of student athletes through college learned than, I probably would be if that record was flipped and we weren't 6-23, but we were 23-6. Yeah. It's nice to hang your hat on beating the number one team in the country, and personally being able to have a walk-off hit versus a team in a program like Kane. Yeah. That's special and stuff, but really what I take from that is everything I can learn about how can I make a program better for hopefully when I have my own one day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sophomore year, definitely changes in the program, new head coach. It's such a small world, that, I just recently interviewed, Dave Lorber, now, of course, the head coach at Montclair State. It was the head coach that year. Just talk about, you improved on the win record, said that year that had to feel good. Just talk about sophomore year there at Stockton.
Yeah, it was different, and it was a little bit scary because, you thought you had a certain head coach, and then all of a sudden, after 1 year, a year that I wasn't so successful, both as a team and an individual, it's like, oh, shoot, now I got to try out again. Yeah. But Coach Lorber came in. Coach Lorber's a really good guy. He runs a great program up at Montclair State right now, and we still keep in touch. We have a very good relationship. But he came in and really tried to bring us together as a family with the guys that were already there. Yeah. he came from George Washington University, and obviously a very good Division I program, and everyone kind of bought in. And sophomore year, that 2019 season, I guess it is, we were able to break the record for most consecutive wins to start a Stockton baseball season. It wasn't the most competitive schedule, but then again, the year before we were 6-23. We probably shouldn't be playing a competitive schedule at that point. So Coach Lorber really came in and did a good job and made everyone feel comfortable as a family from that point going forward.
That's wonderful. Of course, in junior year 2020, COVID hits. Said Dave Lorber steps down. University brings in Rich Garlock. And actually, before I get to that, who's the assistant coach at TCNJ, is that I found it very interesting, very unique as well, that the players had input on said who's going to be the head coach sophomore year. Just talk about that process, Garrett.
Yeah, that was definitely a weird process for us as players too. We are guys who are obviously players on the team, and here we are sitting in a quote unquote position of power to ask questions to somebody who might be our figurative boss on the athletic field. So there were a lot of guys that went into the interview process with some trepidation of, I don't want to ask the wrong question, or if this guy gets the job, I don't want to make him upset. So myself, a good friend of mine, JJ Swenkowski from Egg Harbor Township, we kind of took charge in that whole leadership committee in terms of the search committee for who we're going to bring in. And it's unique that we were able to do that. And we were so fortunate to have such a great athletic director, recently retired. His name is Kevin McHugh. He's got to be up there with Dennis Nelson, but in the world of college. And he is just such a great guy. And he allowed the student athletes on the baseball team to provide some sort of input. Now, how much they took input, how much they weighed that input is, we can't know that. We don't know. But to be able to be in that process and interview Coach Lorber and ultimately interview Coach Garlock, it truly made us feel like we had a say in where our program was going as players.
That's terrific. I mean, it must have been a serious bummer. I wrote it down and frustrating that you guys went 8-3 that year in a shortened season, but just to have that winning record, to build off, it said that foundation, that must have felt really good, for you and the rest of the team.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did. Before Coach Lorber stepped down, he brought in 20 newcomers to the program. A lot of them were JUCO guys. So again, the guys who have been wearing the Osprey uniform for the previous 2 years were kind of feeling like, oh shoot, we got to try out again with all these JUCO guys. And we were so fortunate. I'll personally say I'm so fortunate to have met each and every one of those 20 guys that came in that year. Coach Lorber did a great job of bringing in good human beings and really good baseball players too. And we gelled as a family, which made it hurt more when Coach Lorber left. But in the long run, like you said, we're 8-3 in 2020, and we feel like a family. It's us against the world. We've been through the ups and downs together. We had to deal with another coaching change together, and we came together as a team. And yeah, it sucked when our season got canceled. We're 8-3, but Division III baseball at that point kind of takes a backseat to the health and well-being of everybody in the world. So, it is what it is, and it was certainly an interesting experience. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine. I mean, especially for those seniors. I mean, that's the thing, is that knowing that not being able to play a full season, and this is it. It said last time it said you're taking that field. Okay, talk about senior year last year, and again, quite a bit of success. I mean, in terms of won your first New Jersey Athletic Conference playoff game. Beat number 16 Keenan in a doubleheader sweep. Number 7 Rowan in the playoff game. Must have been very satisfying, to cap off your career at Stockton University on the baseball diamond, in that fashion.
Yeah, so we talked about that feeling of taking off the River Dell jersey for your last time and knowing you won't ever play again. And I remember the feeling of taking off that River Dell jersey and thinking there's definitely more in the tank, and we could have gone further or accomplished a little bit more. With taking off the Stockton baseball jersey for the last time, it was a completely different feeling. It was a feeling of complete fulfillment. My heart was full. My body physically couldn't take it anymore. Mentally, I couldn't do it anymore. I poured everything I had into that program and to the guys that I was sharing the field with. And to have that success, to look back and say that we made school history in two different capacities, just a year after a global pandemic. I look back with great pride at my time wearing the Osprey uniform and what we were able to accomplish as a group of men that ultimately turned into a family on the baseball field.
And not forgetting a team captain for 3 years. That must have really, to hold that, again, we talk about leadership roles, to hold that, I'm sure, again, brought a lot of pride in being able to, for people to look up to you as well, Garrett.
Yeah, absolutely. We never really took a formal vote, but the way we interacted with each other and the way it kind of happened is guys start calling me Cap, and they nickname me it. And when you're in a program that's going through a lot of turnover with the head coaching position, there's got to be someone that steps up and takes leadership. And, I'm thankful to learn from guys like Coach Flanagan, guys like Chris Webber, Jake Fletcher, Nick Sirico, Dave Estevez, that teach you these leadership qualities and allowed me to feel confident and comfortable in that situation to step up for guys to lean on when, we really didn't know where we were headed as a baseball program.
It's outstanding. Okay, once again, Garrett, you flourished, said academically, on that student athletic advisory committee representative for the NJAC conference for 2020 and 2021, a 3.4 GPA, 3-time NJAC all academic honorable mention. Fantastic honors. Just being able to, again, earn those accomplishments, again, balancing out that role as a student athlete. We always talk about time management, organization, and you were able to excel flawlessly. I just had to ask you about that in your 4 years at Stockton University.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different than what's required of you in high school. But something that I can say with certainty that I know a lot of people that I went to Stockton with cannot say is that my high school, River Dell, prepared me so well for college. I walked into my first semester as a college student, was not overwhelmed at all. I had a great grasp of the skills that they were asking me to utilize. And I think really it's the preparation that all the teachers at River Dell were able to provide for me going into Stockton. And I know so many of my friends in the class of 2017 feel the same way going to their schools. It's tough to measure how much they can actually impact and prepare you, especially because we hold such a high standard at River Dell. But man, I never felt overwhelmed in the classroom, and balancing sports and the time management, coaches like DJ Nymphius and Coach Flanagan, those are guys that teach you those skills, whether you know you're being taught it or not. The teachers that are pushing you, they're teaching you those skills, whether you know it or not. And really, it was not a difficult transition for me because of how well everybody at River Dell had prepared me for that.
That's terrific. Okay, let's talk about your coaching career. And again, it's so impressive coaching this Northeast Supreme Club organization, ages 9U to 15U. Again, assisting the recruiting process and off-season development. Talk about how rewarding that was in terms of, you mentioned, the age range there in terms of how competitive it was, for the 9-year-olds and the 15-year-olds. Looking to, the 15-year-olds looking to play in, I said in colleges D1 through D3. Talk about that, Garrett.
Yeah, I was really fortunate that Russ Cohen and Mike Monaco, two guys that run the Northeast Supreme organization, were confident enough in me as a young man starting in high school to run camps and assist in that process and work with the younger kids and ultimately stay through with that organization, coaching in the summers while playing summer ball. Going up the ranks of the age groups and sticking with a group of guys. That's a really good group of guys. And being able to coach those different levels provided a lot of different perspectives for me. Coaching those 9-year-olds, it's okay. How good am I at teaching these fundamentals to kids? If I can teach a 9-year-old the proper fielding technique of how to field the ground ball, then I can probably teach a 20-year-old when I'm coaching at the college level. And also coaching those young guys, it provides a moment where you can actually step back and say, you know what, this game is meant to be fun. And you see kids messing around, kicking dirt and doing whatever they do on the baseball field at 9 years old. And it brings a smile to your face because you're reassured that it's a game. And then, maybe you have a 9-year-old practice in the morning, and then in the afternoon, you'll go to a 15-year-old game and you have scouts behind home plate with radar guns trying to recruit kids. And then all of a sudden it's a different perspective and it changes. So the balance of the two, working with the younger and the older kids, it provided a lot of perspective and was really an enjoyable experience for me while I was working with those guys.
So that's great. And you paid it forward, said coming back to your alma mater, Stockton University and coaching there, and plenty of multitasking and responsibilities there. Garrett is at recruiting, introduction and families to the head coach, campus recruit tours. And that, I think, probably the best part for you, I'm sure, you're going to talk about this, is the class of 2022, ranked 9th in Division III recruiting class, according to Perfect Game Baseball. I mean, to see, again, how much time and effort you put into, again, to see the results pay off, I'm sure, again, very, satisfying for you, Garrett.
Absolutely. My heart will always be in Galloway, New Jersey. It's my second home. It's Stockton University is a great place that I hold a lot of great memories. Thinking about my time on the baseball field, but also just as a college student. Yeah. And the opportunity that Coach Garlack gave me to join his coaching staff, I can't thank him enough. I still thank him to this day. Any opportunity I can to say thank you to him for giving me the opportunity to be one of his assistant coaches and giving me so much independence in my role as a coach. I owe the man the world, and he gave me so much in terms of, free reign. You go do your thing. Because, I think in the back of his mind, and we've talked about it a couple of times too, is that this school was my home for 4 years, and, he hasn't quite been there as long. And I had a personal attachment to the school, and Coach Garlack did a great job of bringing in not only really good baseball players from the class of 2021, this year when we had a really young team on the field, as well as really good baseball players in the class of 2022, but he brought in a lot of really good kids who worked their tail off, both in the classroom, on the field, of course, and ultimately are staples in the community like we look for. Yeah. How can you make an impact on somebody else's life in the community is something that we like to talk to the kids about. We take a great pride in that at Stockton, and that number 9 Division III recruiting class is an awesome accolade. It's great to know that we're getting really good baseball players, but it's even more refreshing to know that when you throw that ranking out, you sit down with these kids in a room, that you're talking to really good people. And that's really the biggest thing.
I agree. It's more than the player. There's so much that goes into it. I loved how you were able to pass your knowledge down, training the infielders and then, the hitters, base running. And I think this is really most of social media. I think, that's something that kids really, say could take a page out of you, said in terms of that, because they get, I'm not saying everybody, but, in terms of the misuse, and there are so many pitfalls that do come, with the territory with social media, Garrett. Yeah,
we talk about our social media usage all the time to our student athletes. It's almost to the point where it's repetitive and we're beating a dead horse, but it's one mistake, one stupid comment, and it changes your entire life, really. So we follow a lot of our players, and we monitor what they post with their permission, of course, because there are things that someone might say or someone might retweet or someone might like that you don't necessarily agree with. You might think it's funny, but a lot of people might find offensive and stuff like that. So we work with a lot of our athletes in terms of, hey, these are the do's and don'ts and how we should manage our social media in a day and age where everyone just posts everything that they have on their mind.
And it doesn't go away. That remains there forever. While we're talking about technology, how about in terms of with the game of baseball, because the analytics, of course, and just in terms of with hitters and with pitchers, I'm sure that I wanted to get your take on that, just how that is incorporated, into the game, today.
For some people, it's the end all be all. For other people, they want nothing to do with it. When I was with Coach Garlack at Stockton and, in talking to Coach Egbert at Misericordia, we're very similar in our beliefs regarding technology in the game of baseball. And we believe that technology should be used as a supplement. And that's especially at the Division III level in college baseball, where exit velocity is great. And if you can hit the ball 100 miles an hour off the tee, that's awesome. But if you're doing it 1 out of 100 times, you're not helping us as a baseball team. So metrics, we use Rapsodo, we use Driveline, On Base University, anything you can think of in terms of technology, we pretty much have access to it. And coaches will do our best to filter the information we give to our players, because not all of it is necessary. Not all of it's necessary for us either. We like to look at the information, interpret it in a way, is it significant? Is it not? If it is significant, how are we going to come up with a plan to help this person in this area and help this player develop? But it's not the end all be all for us. There are guys who are quote unquote not showcase guys, who aren't going to throw the ball a million miles an hour, who aren't going to hit the ball over the fence 13 times in batting practice, and who aren't going to run like lightning. But when you watch them play and they compete their tail off and they're a really good teammate, and they make the routine play on defense and can get on base, those are the guys that slip through the cracks because of the overemphasis on technology and metrics and measurements like that. So it's a balance that we definitely have to try and find.
Just have a couple more left. I wanted to ask you about Misericordia University, a graduate assistant baseball coach there, working under head coach Pete Egbert, and then assistant coaches David Gargone and Mike Tierney. Just talk about your time there, as well, Garrett.
Yeah, so my time there is fairly short.
Okay.
I just finished the interview process, probably in March. Just got done with everything like that, and didn't make it really official until recently with all the paperwork and all that. But I saw there was an opening at Misericordia for this position, and I always wanted to get higher education and try and go get a master's degree. So I figured what better opportunity than try and do both at the same time, where I can coach baseball and get my master's degree. And I'm so fortunate that Coach Egbert has given me this opportunity. I'm doing my best every day to make sure that he doesn't regret it giving me this opportunity. I'm trying to work my tail off in recruiting and doing whatever I can for the program, because Misericordia truly is a Division III program that is super prestigious, and 10 straight MAC Freedom Conference titles leading into this year from 2011 to 21, winning regionals in 2018 and 2019, making it to the Division III World Series in 2018, all the while being a school with about 2,000 undergrads in the middle of nowhere, Dallas, Pennsylvania. Coach Egbert's a great man and a great baseball mind, so I'm so fortunate to learn under him. And that was one of the biggest things that drew me to applying to the job. And when we went through the interview process, myself, Coach Egbert, Coach Gargone, forged a pretty good relationship right off the bat and have a lot of similar beliefs philosophically. And I'm just really looking forward to getting on campus and finally meeting the student athletes that are there and building relationships with them, like Coach Nymphias, Coach Flanagan, Coach Golack, Lorber, Scott Baker, all the guys that I've played under. I want to forge relationships with those kids at Misericordia like my coaches have forged with me. That's
fantastic. And I wanted to ask you also, a history teacher as well. Just fulfilling is that, being able to work with students, as a teacher, of course, just talk about that as well, Garrett.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy decision to leave the teaching profession after only about 6 months in it. But at the end of the day, being 23 years old, I have to go after and pursue, ultimately what my dream is. But you're right, being in the classroom with these students, it was always a dream of mine. My dad was a principal for a while, recently retired. My mother actually is a teacher of special education in River Dell Middle School right now.
Okay.
I don't know when she'll be retiring, but hopefully it's soon. Yeah. But being in education was a dream of mine for so long. And at 23 years old, I kind of had to make a big decision of, okay, do I want to continue to pursue this for the time being, or am I really going to go after my dream? And that's to be a full-time baseball coach at some point or another at the collegiate level. And talking with them, and it was the right decision to do, head towards Misericordia and go through this interview process. But the experiences and relationships I was able to forge with my students in the classroom, all 117 of them, it's special, and I definitely don't take it for granted. The opportunity to shape young minds comes in multiple forms. It's not always on a baseball diamond or a football field, and in the classroom is probably the most typical one. And I truly am fortunate to have that opportunity to talk to so many kids and forge really strong relationships with them.
That's great. Okay, you talked about your parents. I wanted to ask you support from them. If you have any, of course, you have siblings and extended family, and when it comes to also the town of Oradell, just the support you've received from everyone here in your journey.
Yeah, Oradell is, you can only have one home, and I'm so thankful that Oradell is mine. It's from my peers who I graduated with, or older or younger teammates or classmates of mine that I still keep in touch with. It's even if it's something as small as a happy birthday text once a year from somebody that you haven't heard from in a long time. It's awesome to hear from so many Oradell people and to have so many sources of support and love ultimately from this whole Riverdale community. It's special, and I know, having traveled in my young years, that it doesn't happen like that everywhere. So being a part of that Riverdale community is truly a privilege, especially being an athlete in that community as well.
It's great. Hey, I'm wondering, when you were growing up, I know you played football and baseball at Riverdale. I was just wondering if there are any other sports you played growing up as well, Garrett.
Growing up, I played a little bit of basketball up
Okay.
until middle school, but I couldn't shoot at all, so I stopped.
Hey, for you, the game of baseball, because you played it for so long, I'm just wondering again, some of your fondest memories, just something that stood out. Whether again I come back to a practice or a game or even outside of the baseball time, that just you continue to follow your passion. Obviously, I just had to ask you about that, Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if my original plan going through college was to be a graduate assistant coach somewhere. I can tell you it definitely wasn't. I thought I was going to be a teacher and coach high school sports, but going on this path, it doesn't really happen without the inspiration and growing up seeing athletes like Garrett deMarrais, who probably don't even know I exist, running the triple option for Riverdale. Winning state championships and stuff like that. And, seeing guys like Brandon Martinez, Corey Martinez, seeing them play baseball, guys like Brett Lubin, who beat Bergen Catholic. They're all things that I was witnessing as a young kid growing up in that community. And I think it definitely contributes to the fact that this game and sports as a whole means so much to me, because it means so much to that Riverdale community. And I probably sound like a broken record, but I can't be more thankful enough for the guys that were older than me, that wore those cleats on the Riverdale fields before me, because they taught me more lessons than they are even aware of. And I know that for certain, and I wish I could pinpoint every lesson they've taught me. Yeah. But just as a whole, the upperclassmen, when I was a younger classman, truly special, the relationship we were able to build. And again, I'm so fortunate to have been able to learn from them.
It's great. Okay, final question before you get the last word, Garrett. And again, you're in a perfect spot. Definitely, I think a role model, I said, for many people out there. Your message for younger kids, athletes out there, and as well as people who want to break into the coaching ranks too. What your message and advice would be to them?
Yeah, well, to first the athletes that are, whether they're age 9 or age 17 and at Riverdale planning on going to play college ball, my advice to you is always to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, and if you turn this game into a business, it's going to ultimately pull away from your heart. And if you're not loving what you're doing on the athletic fields, then you're in the wrong place. If you're someone that's really interested in pursuing coaching, especially at the college level, it's difficult to make a lot of money in the profession. It's really tough to make a living, but I live by the motto, do more than what you're paid for, and one day you'll be paid more for what you do. So you got to be ready to grind and put your nose to the grindstone. And money's going to have to come out of your own pocket. But if it's something that you truly love, if you're really passionate about it, then ultimately one day you'll find a way to make it work. And, like that saying goes, you'll get paid more for than what you actually do. Yeah. So again, just enjoy the ride, especially if you're wearing that Riverdale uniform, because it doesn't last forever, and there's very few experiences in this world that will even closely resemble it. So enjoy it.
Well said. As I said, you get the final word here. A final message for family, friends, former classmates, teammates, the town of Oradell, Riverdale High School Administration Athletics, and Stockton University.
There's really just not that many. There's too many people to even try and thank all of them, but I'm just so grateful to have been growing up in this community and be a part of such a family town through and through, and a family school through and through, and everybody that's contributed to the development of myself as a young man, as a baseball player, as a teacher, as an educator, and ultimately, hopefully one day as a full-time coach as I go through this process. So I can't thank you all enough. And, if you make it to this point in the interview, if you didn't get sick and tired of me talking a little bit, thank you. And thank you to you for having me on, because I really appreciate it. And again, I love the way you cover Riverdale sports, and athletes all across the country at this point too. You do a tremendous job, and it's truly a privilege of mine to be here and share a little bit of what I've experienced in my time. So thank you.
No, thank you, Garrett. Incredible honor and privilege being able to interview you for the Oradell Sports Roundup. Congratulations on all your success, and wishing you all the best moving forward here again with Misericordia, University. As I said, on the coaching staff, and looking forward to seeing what you do again. Down the road as we move here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we have another one of these in 5 or 10 years or so.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.